Hey everyone, we're heading back to the field after lunch here, and after a few other interruptions from different things going on. There's that 4850 looking good running augers. I really like this 8R 280 on this grain cart. These new 8Rs are beautiful tractors, and this new cart, I just couldn't be happier with it. I was asked about the auger, how I like it. The only thing I dislike of this auger is the fact that it's a little shorter in unload height than a V series cart where they kind of come out of the corner angle. Now, if anybody's watched the Brent V series publicity video on YouTube, they talk about visibility. That's because the auger would be more here instead of back there. The negative side of that is when you turn left with the auger out. If you turn left and you dip in a hole, that auger will be in your rooftop. And we're just going literally across the road next to the house here into the field. If you can see the combine way down there, and there's 120 acres here. I was also asked about the turning radius of this cart. Amazing. We had an Avalanche series in the past, and it was a 1500 bushel. And it was a nice cart in the sense that it held a lot of capacity, but I didn't like it because the tandem axles on were near impossible to back up. They had a lockout feature just to back them up. I didn't like the tire and wheel combinations on it. This is the smallest of the Avalanche series, but it's just the way it's configured. I just really like the cart. I like the way the hitch lays out. It's shorter. Like I said in yesterday's video, this cart's only going to fill about a semi-load, but for our farm, that's really all we need. And going down in the field, let me show if I can show you guys this. But look at the turning radius here. I can crank and set augers way back there beyond the cab. And that was 12 rows there and about another 6 or 10 rows here. And since the neighbors are going to think I'm crazy for making U-turns out in the middle of the field, I think I'll just go over here and put the cart on the other hillside. We do not have a cart operator at this time. That may be changing coming up, depending on a couple things with his current employment and the future of agriculture in general as to if it can support additional members. But it would be nice to have an operator for this cart. And no, I'm not looking at this time because we are getting it done with less labor. 4020 is in the shop for repairs, and here's a 4620 update. Radiator's in, foam and everything's going onto it. I had to get a new fuel pump, new fan belts, getting all the original belting, everything put in. They'd had this hydraulic line here, which goes down as the pressure when it comes off the pump. They'd had it replaced with a hose, and I found out it was still available from Deere. This oil cooler line was not, and it was leaking, so we had to get a little braze on it. But these curved hoses, they were available from John Deere still, so they're all replaced, new. I was really surprised, even this original clamp was all available. Just got done digging those 965 R32 tires out of the barn, and I'm going to take the forks off this 6120. Here's the power button. You have to hit them both at once, and you hear the click, and you can let it down for release. Slide down out of it, back, and bada boom. I like that power release. And if you're curious and want to go back in time, you can see those 965 R32 tires on our John Deere 9560 that we had on our short-term lease. And you can see those tires in action. We always thought we were going to use them again, and we didn't. But I actually found a buyer here, pulled them out of the shed, sold them to them, and they're headed to Mexico. This place on my right was a egg-laying plant. It was full of chickens, and they took the eggs off of them. They wanted to expand this, but they deemed it a wetland. And there was the house that the original manager was part of. But this year, this company that owns it, filed for bankruptcy, and the place is just abandoned now. From places such as PETA, they had to start removing a certain amount of birds per cage. Then when they went to build and expand facilities, they couldn't because the property had been deemed a wetland. And just the collapse of agriculture, labor shortages, just all piled up. It was too much for them to bear, and they eventually collapsed. And all those things are all too often found in America. A good friend of mine's father worked there in the mid-90s. I remember him saving up a little money. In 1999, he purchased a brand new F-150 two-wheel drive. It was a regular cab, and he paid $13,000 cash for that pickup. It's a nice little pickup. They drove it for years. I don't think you can even buy a pickup like that for $40,000 now. And sadly, those jobs that are there, the wages that are around the area haven't really increased. The jobs are at that particular plant are obviously gone now. It's just a scene that we see too many times here in the Midwest, especially in smaller rural areas. The combines have always been dumping from the left ever since the 1970s. You know, you saw the early Massey Fergusons, the early John Deeres. They all started running the turret-style auger, and that's what they're still using to current date. And there's just so many situations where a auger would swing both ways. And I have an idea for something even better than an auger that would be so handy. That right there is how your bar graph should look on your rotor loss. Nothing. But all too often does this John Deere like to change. You can go from that to pegged out gauge all on the same road with a John Deere. And it has absolutely nothing to do with header size. We have ran between 1 to 12 rows for this machine, between 0.1 to 7 miles an hour, and the conditions on that gauge, which is your loss, stay the same. It doesn't matter. What we've determined, it's cob size. It all depends how hard it is to thresh and the size of the cob going through. Header performs pretty well, especially with the Romax kits and the chopping rolls that we've installed on it, so we're happy with it. Most companies do suggest using a little bit bigger head, driving a little slower, just essentially because of cost. That's why we went this direction, but we're actually driving a little faster. We're in the 5 to 6 mile an hour range most of the time. I could probably go 7 if the land topography would allow. Deere does offer a RTK kit. It has 2 receivers. One goes to the tractor, one goes on the planter. Now, I'm not 100% up to par with the technology behind that, but what I'm told is the planter can actually help steer the tractor. So if that's a technology that can actually get utilized on our farm, that might be something that I look into coming up, which would allow us to stay with the 1223 planter. Actually just works a lot better on our ground. And that's not to mention that our planter was bought on basically a sale special of around $225,000. Probably got traded in about $175,000. That's a very decked out ExactEmerge planter. A brand new ExactEmerge 1631 right now is around $340,000. So the trade difference between $175,000 and $340,000 is just not something that I'm interested in. So if we could utilize our planter, which fits our land better, but allow us to go to like an 8-row head, because 24 rows, the only one you'd be splitting would be your center row. So if that's something we can use on our farm in the future, that might be something we do, which will allow us to run an 8-row corn head with a 12-row planter efficiently. We have done it in the past, but it just didn't work trying to do it manually. I do not have the money around. I mean, yes, we could afford it, but I priced out a new C12R, which is a folding, and it wasn't even a Stockmaster, it's just a folding 12-row corn head, and you're right at $150,000 to $160,000 for that head. And it's just something I don't feel like I want to put that much money into. I mean, you're looking at $125,000 more in this header, so $125,000 and not really needing it. It's just not equitable for what. I mean, I just don't need to spend it. Yes, I could buy a used 12-row corn head and totally rebuild it with the kits that are on this head. However, again, I would be getting into a cost scenario where I'm not quite happy. And if anybody's really studied used equipment, you'll pretty quickly notice that the used with wear, by the time you add the parts and a little bit of labor factor, you're about neck and neck, depending on the wear, with the new model or the brand new off the assembly line. So oftentimes, unless you just find the right piece, the right place, they got this stuff pretty scientifically figured out proportionally for wear versus replacement cost. After all, most service industries or farm-related industries are just palms of the corporations anyway. I like equipment, and I know equipment very well, and I'm always looking for the next best thing or what's best in the industry. And that's why I say there's no combine that's ideal. But I do feel that John Deere is lacking a bit, and I think they can really make some performance enhancements and some basic design redos. It's time, they need it. And they probably were using that line of thinking when they came out the X9. Unfortunately, they're still using the same rotor concave design. It's just a smaller version times 2. And there goes the neighbors over there, running. And unloading again. It's a good problem. Taking another load up to the wagons. I'm going to try to film this as I unload. And with the price of anhydrous and dry P&K, it's really on the fence is what we're going to do next year for crop acres. I think a lot of guys are on the fence. This inflation is really out of control. Not improve, I think there's going to be a lot of acres of soybeans planted. Okay, I'm getting ready to unload here. We'll pull up. First thing I need to do is activate my hydraulics, which you can see the line went up. We're in continuous. And we're going to hit unfold. Double click our joystick. And that should send the auger up. We have 60,000 pounds on. Alrighty, I get the camera propped up. We'll try to film the unload of this thing. It's pretty fast. It's hard to film because I gotta use both hands. I don't have the GoPro in here. PTO on. So now I'm gonna raise the throttle and I get the PTO spinning. If you look out there, you can see the spout moving. That's on the joystick. I got it on my joystick here. I have a trigger, and if you look at the indicator on the cart, that's your slide gates as to how open or shut the slide gates are. And we're unloading. I got it about mid-range. It's a new auger. We'll break it in a little slow. Unload the most at first. Pay attention here. These wagons are a little bit tall on the sides. It's like a semi-hopper is a little easier to see into. So you look for corn splatter coming. And there it is. Now slowly dial back the gate and top off the wagon. You guys can see the cart back there and the windows of it. I really like those triple windows too. It's such good visibility. Slide the gate shut and kill the PTO. There we go. Wagon's full. A little taller on this one. I'll bump the auger up. And the eke ahead here. If you look at the bottom of that auger, there is like a angle iron piece there. I think it's really made just in case you accidentally rub the rubber on the truck, but we're not going to do that. It's important to have your auger empty when you engage it, but we had basically empty, no load on it. And I'm gonna go with the slide gate again. And boom, boy, you can see that grain just pouring out of that box. That auger unloads up to 800 bushels a minute. The V-Series corner augers only unload about, I think there's 600. So this is definitely faster. The auger is back there. You don't have quite that corner visibility, but as I mentioned earlier, you can actually make a corner with this car with the auger out. And it reaches these wagons pretty well, but not quite as good as the V-Series. That could be improved on this cart. We can go up, but then you lose some of your reach. And there's the wagon mounting up. So we'll pull ahead. I can see the grates in the floor as we pull ahead, and I can see the last little grates and the floor auger running out. Wow, those windows are great. You can just see that corn go out. You know exactly how full that box is. Having those windows is awesome. Well, there's that. Shake the spout, throttle down, and we're unloaded already. And that was actually doing it slow because I wanted to film it. When we get all done, PTO gets stopped. I'll double tap my fold. There you go. Double tap that. You can see our over center latching system, and it does not ever spill out of that corner. That V-Series always trickled. And over she goes. Pretty cool. Now I can engage my IVT back to forward. Camera up here. Engage my IVT back to forward. Return my joystick here to the holder. There's that. Kick my hydraulic out. And our cart's unloaded. Tells us how much we unloaded there onto that wagon. And we'll go work our way back to the combine. And back to the combine. And instead of looking at the header again, look at the grain tank. Something interesting this year, we tried some mulch finishing, we tried some fall applied anhydrous, we tried different styles of no-till, conventional tillage, corn on corn, no-till, following soybeans. Absolutely no clear winner to any of it. All of it's been variable and no consistency to any of it. On a normal year, you'll have a good standout something or other. The only thing that's really stood out this year, yield-wise, has been down the sloughs or places that normally are damp are actually yielding way better than like the hillsides. And on a normal year, that's just opposite, which just proves that we were short on water. So I can't complain about the yields as an overall, especially for the rain that we received. However, I think it could be better, substantially better for that fact, if we would have just received another 2 inches of rain in about mid-June. We're just a little short on rainfall. Cell phone videos, quick to make, but I hope you guys have been enjoying them. They're pretty easy to make, so I'm able to throw a few more of them up while we're right in the heart of the harvest season. I appreciate you guys watching. There'll be some really great, actual good footage coming up soon, as well as we'll dive back into other projects and we'll diversify the channel with better footage. So, thanks again. See you guys in the next one. Oh, and I would like to add, if you do like any of these videos and you like the channel, hit the subscribe button. It helps a lot.